So we got a generator here this morning. It's a VOLT MASTER electric generator. It's got the 8-horse Briggs Stratton engine on it. There's a lot of these engines around. We see a ton of them. Seems like, you know, over the years, a lot of them have carburetor issues after a period of time. Now it is pretty easy to adjust the main jet on the bottom. You can just adjust that in or out depending on how much fuel you need. So not too hard to do there, but this one, I fired it up. The thing smoked like crazy to begin with. He said he had a refrigerator or something against the exhaust, melted kind of against it, and then it wouldn't start. Well, it fired right up and ran okay for me, but then it started leaking gas out of the bottom. So it's a carb issue for sure going on with that. So what we're gonna do, we're not gonna bother replacing or rebuilding this thing whatsoever. They're about $235 for a new one. Rebuilding it, you're looking at a rebuild kit, then plus at least a half an hour, probably an hour worth of labor to get that done, and you're not guaranteed it's going to work at that point. So we're going to replace it with an aftermarket unit, and what that'll do is it'll get it back up and running, and it'll give you a nice fresh place to start. Now there are a few different things you have to do to these aftermarkets because they don't come made right. They don't come with the right threads, for instance. In the top, the threads are not the right size, so either you have to re-thread them, 1/4 tap that out. Otherwise you can use different bolts, but we always like to keep stuff as original as we can. But the good thing about those carburetors is they're just as good of a quality as the OEM carbs, and they're super cheap. You know, they're under 40 bucks. You can flip that thread out real quick, put some new threads in it, hook everything up, and you'll be back up and running in a little bit of no time without spending, you know, half of what you would to rebuild the old carb, and not a quarter of what you would to replace the carb. So we're gonna go ahead and first off open up this carburetor, figure out exactly what it looks like. So it does come with your gasket for your intake. You're going to want to replace that to make sure that's good. So this is just one of the ones from one of our distributors. They make them all over the place, and they're pretty much all the same. They're almost never the right threads. I don't think I've ever ordered one that's been the right threads, no matter where I've gotten it from. So again, it seemed to run okay. It's just leaking gas all over the place. So we're gonna go ahead and replace it. It smoked just an ungodly amount just because of whatever was against, I think he said a freezer or something, refrigerator or freezer against the exhaust when he started it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take the cover off, the filter off. You don't really need much in order to get this done. You only need a 3/8. Just a wrench for the bottom so you can get this whole assembly here out. And that's what a lot of people miss when they're going to put it back together. They miss putting this through. It's got to go through the assembly here and then also through this bracket. If it doesn't go through that bracket, what'll happen is a lot of times it'll push real bad on the governor linkage and cause it to just overspeed like crazy. So once that's off, you can take your top bolt out on this side, and then your air cleaner cover will just slide out. Now that's the one with a spacer in it, so that's why you want that. You want to use that original bolt. You don't want to use a different bolt, because that's not going to work right. It's not going to have that spacer in it to do that. All right, so that's just how that's going to go back on. Also, this O-ring's pretty bad. We're going to go ahead and replace it with a new one. It's all cracked up all the way around. Got some real bad spots in it. Otherwise, you'll end up pulling some debris and stuff in through the intake here that's not going to be filtered. You don't want that to happen. That'll cost you the life of your unit over time, at least. Now, this is a Phillips head 3 for that, so you're going to want to get that. Get your next one off here. And that one doesn't come out as cleanly as the other one, so all we're gonna do is we're gonna take it and pull it straight out, and then we'll put it up at an angle and pull it straight up off of there. The spring came out at the same time, but it just needs pulled up and off also. And then we'll go ahead and get the fuel line off. Now you do want to make sure that the tank and the line and the filter and all that is nice and cleaned out when you're getting this thing put back together, because otherwise you'll be right back in the same, having the same issue with the carb if everything's not clean or if you're using bad fuel. Apparently my cable's going down here. I don't know that I guess I didn't set the safety bar on it. Always a good thing if you got a hydraulic lift to set the safety bar, because it could fall at any point in time. So if you just take the fuel line and twist, and then you can pull it off, nice and easy. Just let that go ahead and drain down in there, get it empty. Now this carb, if you look, is exactly the same as the other. There's really no differences whatsoever. Aftermarket versus OEM. We are going to go ahead and open this up though and make sure that the quality control has been done on it. A lot of carburetors, whether they're aftermarket or OEM anymore, have metal shavings or debris or dust or anything else on the inside. And unless you're doing it and inspecting it yourself, you're not going to know whether that's the case or not. So we're going to go ahead and take that out. No, I think this is the one that the jet actually, the main jet has to come out in order to get the top off. All right. Now we won't worry about where that's set or anything like that, because we'll have to adjust it once we get it on there anyway. So we're gonna go ahead and get a flathead screwdriver and go ahead and unscrew that. And that's just allowing us to pull the top off here. So never a bad idea also to have it down through here all inspected also, because that is your main jet that goes all the way up through there, feeds your whole engine. So now whole assembly comes straight up. You want to make sure you don't let that drop down and let your needle and seat or anything drop out. I'm not seeing anything right this second down in there, but we are going to blow it out real good. And again, this is just to make sure that we're not going to have issues because of poor quality control. We are being the quality control. Doesn't matter if it's OEM or aftermarket. Once again, I've seen every single brand come in with stuff in the bottom. It does look like it's seating right level, so I'm happy with the way that it looks so far. Oop, let's try to get it back together the right way. That'd be great. Let's see here. There we go. Maybe so. There we go. All right. Go ahead and put our top three back in. Okie doke. Now if we try to screw this into there, it catches right there. As soon as you get that first thread going, it catches. It's not the right threads. So that'll show you. Blow that all out also. Doesn't look like I see anything down in there in the main jet. The emulsion tube is good all the way up through. Holes look good in it. Screw that back down in there. You don't want to over tighten it, just snug it up firm. And then we can go ahead and put the adjustment here back on. All right, screw it back on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this tap and we're going to go ahead and fix this to where the thread is the right thread. It's 1/4-20 tap. Now if you don't have this kind of tap, a lot of times you can grab a bolt that's got a 1/4-20 thread to it, and as long as you're holding it level, going down through there, as long as it's being held level, you won't have any issues with rethreading it. It's aluminum. It's not a real hard metal to rethread. So a lot of people, and I'll kind of show you on this other side how that's done, but as long as you're holding it level, it's going to screw down in there and it's going to cut you new threads, no problem. And that's with, I'll show you how to do it that way. And you want to make sure that you keep the metal shavings out of the unit here. You don't want that going down in, so I've been holding this closed the whole time just to make sure nothing falls down in there as I'm doing it. So if you've got another 1/4 here, you can just go ahead and thread that straight on down through. Let's grab my P3, that way it actually threads. As long as you're holding it level, it's going to thread itself. So we just cut new threads. We just cut those new threads with that same bolt that came out of there. Now it is a lot easier just to go ahead and use your tap. But if you don't have a tap laying around, I know many of you probably won't, you can go ahead and thread it in just like that. That's not going to hurt anything. As long as those threads are the same before we're trying to put it back on. Now we do have a little bit of a booger up top here, it looks like. There we go. Got that little piece just boogered up off of there. So now this thing is ready to be installed on this unit. So all we have to do here is go ahead and reinstall it just the way that it came back off. Now I did inspect the tank on this thing and the tank looks awesome. It's not in any way, shape, or form plugged up. There's not any gum or anything in it whatsoever. It's in super good shape, which is not really what normally happens on these. They're normally in pretty bad shape, but in this case it's in really good shape, so we don't have to worry much about that. Go ahead and take this old gasket off. Now if it comes off in pieces or anything, you're going to want to make sure that's 100% clean surface. This one came off nice and clean, no issues at all with it, but if it doesn't, you're going to want to make sure that that is clean. So I'm going to get just a little bit closer while we put this back together. Right. Nice, nice, nice. Now that we got the linkage in there, again, you'll want to make sure that, so this has got a bolt in the bottom here. You want to remove that bolt. Don't want to come out there. Forgot about this step. I think it's a 10mm is what it seems like to me. The 3/8 doesn't want to quite fit on there, but I'm making it work. Right. Hook. Now, you want to make sure that as you go up in there, that again, this sits up underneath. So it goes just like that. We're not going to tighten that down until we get everything put back together here. But we can go ahead and get the one over here started as soon as we get everything lined up. I'm not going to tighten that down, I just got it lined up and started on that side. I'm going to grab a O-ring for this real quick. Got just some standard O-ring set here. You can just pull one out that matches up. Doesn't have to be exact, but you want it pretty close. Same diameter around, or a little bit bigger is not going to hurt much usually. You don't want it smaller, because then it'll still pull stuff through. Yeah, that's not quite right. Let me grab the metric set instead of the standard, see if that works better. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, there we go. That's a good quality, good size one. So we can throw it back in here. And again, you only need to replace that if it's in bad shape. If it's not, you can go ahead and throw the old one back on. No big deal whatsoever. All right. So that went on nice and smooth. You could tell it was nice and tight too though. You don't want it, if it's too loose, you're gonna have issues with it. All right, so we're getting everything in pretty good shape here. Table just fell back down to where the original level was at our stop. So that's good. If you look down through the top, you'll just line that gasket up and line the threads up, and then you go ahead and start it. Now you want to start it by hand first, just to make sure you're not going to cross thread it is best. And you want to make sure that this little air cleaner gets in there like it's supposed to be also. Then you can go ahead and tighten them down. Now I did not put the fuel line back on yet. I want to go ahead and blow this tank out, even though the tank looks real good. If you've got bad gas or anything in it, you want to pay real good attention to getting that tank clean. Now this one here, it's got clear, good quality fuel in it. It sure looks like it anyway. I don't see any signs of water or anything else. But I'm still gonna blow the inside of it out until it's completely dry. Once it's dry, we'll go ahead and fill it back up, get everything else put back together. So the tank's nice and dry now. There's not a drop of anything left. We can blow back through the fuel line. Make sure it's dried out the rest of the way that way. Okay, we're good there. All right. So I'm not going to put that back on yet because I want to get this screw back in the bottom first. Hold everything back together. Now what it does is it goes through here and then through there and attaches directly to the bottom of the carb. Now many times, like is the case here, you're going to have to actually take the 1/2 inch loose from the bottom where it attaches in order to maneuver it just a little bit to get it lined up, to give it enough room. Oop, that's not a 1/2 inch. It looks like it's a 9/16. I was thinking half. Not the case either. Good old 13 millimeter. Half didn't work on it. All right. Now that it's loose, we can maneuver everything. Let's get it lined back up. Get it started. Oop. Okay, so we've got that started in the bottom. We can go ahead and tighten it back up. If I had a right size, that'd be great. Give me a 10 millimeter real quick and go ahead and finish tightening him up like it's supposed to be, as opposed to messing with that 3/8 I just had. We'll tighten this back down on the bottom. And now we're going to throw some fuel in it. Throw the air cleaner back on. Fire this thing on up. Oop. Guess I probably want the fuel line on first, huh? Okie doke. Fuel line on. No matter how long you've been doing this, sometimes you'll miss a step, sometimes you'll forget what you're doing. I'm trying to get this thing done right away before this camera shuts off on me. I've had so many issues with it shutting off after 15 or 20 minutes, it's not even funny. It says it's overheating is what it says. So hopefully we don't have that issue here, but this thing should be done just any second. All right. So just going to go ahead and put that on. I'm not going to worry about the top cover, and we're going to go ahead and fire this thing up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to adjust at the bottom how much fuel we need. So you'll adjust in if you need less fuel, you'll adjust out if you need more fuel. And we're going to go in until it starts to die out, and then we're going to adjust it out until it starts to sound good, and go about 1/8 of a turn past that to where it's at a good level of fuel to air ratio. All right. So as we see there, it was running quite a bit fast at first. Wasn't running it was running way too much, putting out way too much voltage. All we've got to do is adjust your tension here down, and then we check the RPMs, which when running about 3650 RPMs, it should be just perfect. So nice and easy way to get it back up and going. We know this thing's going to be great for another 20 or 30 years now. You know, I think he said he bought this 30 years ago. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.